Hello everyone. This week we're going to continue our talk of programs and offerings at Carteret Community College by talking specifically about university transfer. So last week when we talked about applied sciences and health sciences, there were a bunch of programs that have what we call 2+2 agreements. And so that is a very specific way to transfer to a university. So for example, respiratory therapy. So the agreements that we have with the universities in respiratory therapy means that you are specifically going to those universities and you are specifically majoring in respiratory therapy. We also offer these broad general university transfer degrees, and these degrees really leave you quite a few options when you transfer to a university as to what you can major in. We're going to be talking about these 5 here that you see on your screen a little more in detail. So the majority of transfer students are usually either associates in arts or associates in science. Associates in arts, do not mistake that as for visual arts. This does not mean necessarily like drawing or painting. Associates in arts simply means that when you transfer to a four-year university, you don't plan to go into a math or science field. Associates in science is quite the opposite. That means that when you do transfer, you do plan to go into a STEM field or math or science field. You can see the biggest difference between these two is the number of humanities and social behavioral sciences courses. You have 3 of each in the associates in arts, and then you have 2 of each in the associates in science. And then also another big difference is in the math and science. So I always ask advisees when they tell me, should I be associates in arts or should I be associates in science? The first question out of my mouth is, well, do you like math or science? Because if math and science is a strong suit for you, then definitely associates in science. You can see there you're taking 2 math courses. The lowest math you're allowed to start with is pre-calculus algebra, which is math 171. And then you have to take 2 science courses in a sequence. So what that means is if you take, for example, Chem 151, you would then take the sequence, which is Chem 152. Whereas on the flip side, if math and science is not your strong suit, you can see there's 1 math required for associates in arts, beginning with math 143. So math 143, math 152, or math 171 is your choice. And then 1 science course. There are a little more elective hours for associates in arts than there are associates in science, but otherwise it's pretty much the same. Now we have a degree program called the Associates in Arts and Teacher Preparation or the Associates in Science and Teacher Preparation. So this is specifically for students that do want to go into a four-year university and pursue the field of education. So you either want to become, elementary, middle school, or high school teacher. Again, you can see the differences between the number of humanities and social behavioral sciences and then the number of math and science courses. If you do plan to be a teacher in math or science, then of course you would want to do the associates in science. If otherwise you have a different subject area than associates in arts. You can see for these 2 majors, Soc 225 is a required course. There's a little bit of difference in the number of hours of electives, and then both of the programs do require 4 specific EDU or education courses. We also have the Associates in Fine Arts, and so this would be for a student who enjoys drawing or enjoys painting, specifically going to go into a field that involves art. So you can see there, 2 English, 2 humanities, 2 social behavioral sciences. There is a choice in terms of math, and there's 1 science course required. There are quite a few art electives. This is the biggest difference really between the Associates in Arts and the Associates in Fine Arts. So there are specific art electives that are required for this degree, and I'll show you in a minute how to access that list. And then the Associates in Engineering. So again, this is specifically for students who are going to go into the field of engineering. You see this degree only requires 1 humanities, 1 fine arts, and 1 social behavioral sciences, but then it requires 3 math courses, starting with Calculus 1. So this would be Calculus 1, Calculus 2, and Calculus 3 are required. And then 3 science courses, specifically Chem 151, Physics 251, and Physics 252. Engineering 150 is a required electives, and then there's a choice of 15 hours of pre-major electives. I did want to mention that with the Associates in Fine Arts and the Associates in Engineering, there are specific universities that have an agreement there with those degrees, and so I've listed them for you here in case you are pursuing one of those degree programs with us. So how do you read a program check sheet in terms of university transfer? So last week we did talk about check sheets. I did have you upload at least 2 different check sheets, and I did go over briefly how to read a check sheet, but it's kind of different in terms of transfer students, how you read them. It's not as specific. You are definitely given a choice. So I wanted to show you what I mean by that. So when you're reading a transfer check sheet, everybody takes English, so that's the same. But when you get down to like here, so this is the Associates in Arts, it says select 3 courses from at least 2 different discipline areas. So notice you have a choice. So what exactly does this mean? You want to choose 3 of these, but when it says from at least 2 different discipline areas, that means I wouldn't want to choose these 3 art classes. I could choose 2, and then I'd have to choose another one from a different discipline area. Then if you keep scrolling just to show you what this looks like, again, this says select 3 courses from at least 2 different discipline areas. Notice you have your choice in math, you have your choice select 1 from science, and then you get down here to the bottom and it tells you how many elective hours that you need. So this says you need an additional 13 to 14 general education hours. It does suggest that you take foreign language. It really does depend on where you transfer and what you're transferring to. But most universities do require foreign language, but you want 13 to 14 hours there. And then you want 15 other required hours, or what we call pre-major elective hours, and one of which has to be ACA 122. A lot of students get really confused as a transfer student in these 2 sections here because there's not a list of courses for you to choose from on the check sheet. So what I've done on our week for Moodle this week is I've given you a document called Carteret Transfer Course Listings. And so if you pull up that document here and you go down towards the 2nd page, when you get down to general education electives, this is your list that you get to choose from. These are all the ones that we offer here at Carteret that you could choose from. And then when you get down to that last category of the other or the pre-major electives, this is the list that you would choose from here. Now, let's say that you are mapping out your degree and you're trying to figure out, how many or what general education hours you want to take. So you pull up this little document here, and the 2nd page is your general education electives, and you need 13 to 14 hours. I gave you the credit hours over here so you can add them up. And you're looking at these courses and you're like, you know what, I'm really just not interested in 13 to 14 credit hours of these. Are there any other courses I could take? The courses listed on the 1st page that you got to choose from earlier in the check sheet, let's say you've taken your 3 humanities and you're like, you know what, I'd like to take a 4th one. Any of the courses listed on this 1st page will count as any of the courses on the 2nd page. Just like any of the courses on the 1st and 2nd page will count towards this last category here. I will say it doesn't go the opposite direction. So you cannot just take all the courses on the pre-major elective list and say, hey, I'm done. These only count as pre-major electives. They will not count towards page 2 and page 1. It just doesn't go that way. It's kind of a hierarchy of things. Page 1 is the most important, and then page 2, and then page 3. So hopefully that makes sense. If not, you can definitely email me and ask me some questions. So now I've showed you, the program check sheet. I've showed you the list of courses. How do you go about choosing your courses? What exactly is it that you should take as a transfer student? Because you just have so many options. I say you have a lot of options, but you really don't. So back in 2014, all 16 public universities in the state of North Carolina got together and said, you know what, we really need to come up with what we call transfer pathways. Or sometimes they're called baccalaureate degree plans, or BDPs. What these are is a specific plan designed by your university for your specific major telling you what you need to take at the community college to count towards your 4-year degree. So though I just showed you that big long list of electives and I told you you had a choice of what you could take, really you need to be following your university transfer pathways. So let me show you those. This week, as part of your assignment, you will have to upload at least 2 of these. So up here at the top of our Moodle page, underneath instructor information, there's a little link here that says University Transfer Pathways, which I'll click. I have all 16 public universities here listed in the state of North Carolina. I'm going to choose our top 2 transfer universities, which is ECU and UNC Wilmington. Of course, you can choose whichever university you're interested in. So ECU, for example, I'm going to compare 2 pathways from the same major. So let's say you're an associate's in art student and you want to go to ECU and you want to major in accounting. So if I click associates in arts here beside accounting, what it's going to do is over here on the left hand side, it's going to tell you what community college courses that you should be taking here at Carteret. And then over here on the right hand side, it's telling you if you had gone to ECU as a freshman, what would be the course equivalent at ECU. So for example, our Econ 251 is their Econ 2113. So what I would suggest you do is when you have these choices of electives that you have to take, you want to make sure that you're checking these transfer pathways, that they're not listing you specific courses that you need to take for that major. Now, if I'm scrolling through here, I'm saying, okay, when I get to my social behavioral sciences, it tells me I need to be taking Econ 251. So there's not a guess for you anymore. There's not a choice of 3 classes. I know one of them has to be this one here. Or when I get to math, it's telling me specifically I need to take Math 152. So there it is. That's exactly what I'm going to take. So there's no guessing game anymore because they've given you what courses they want you to take. Now, a lot of students get confused though, like right here, where it says, we call them UGETC. It says UGETC Humanities and Fine Arts course. And then it tells you wants you to take 3 credit hours. What that means for you is you actually do have a choice in this category. It's saying we really don't care which one you take as long as you take one humanities. So if I'm an associate's in art student and I'm up here at my humanities category and I've looked at my transfer pathway, I'm like, okay, they've given me a choice here, so I now can choose one of these and choose whichever one's is most interesting to you. Another section here where it says something like, CAA Gen Ed courses, and it says 6 hours. What that's saying for you as a student, when I look here at my general education elective category, which was here, it's saying during this portion, we don't really care which one you take as long as you take them. So I do want you to know you still have a choice, but notice the majority of your associate's in arts degree is mapped out for you here. Like when I get down to my electives, I know these are the electives that I'm going to take. I'm going to take Accounting 120. I'm going to take Business 115. There's no guessing game anymore. Let's look at UNCW and let's look at the same accounting degree. So there's a little bit different. It's Business Administration Accountancy. And so it's laid out very similar to ECU. One thing I want to mention is both ECU and UNCW list it by semester. So they say fall, spring, fall, spring. This is, your first year, this is your second year. Don't panic if you don't take them in order. That's really not that big of a deal. So if it says spring semester, I want you to take Math 171 and you took it in your fall semester of your second year, it's not a big deal. As long as you just complete the list of courses that they have here, that's the most important thing. Again, you're going to see specific classes, but then you're also going to see some choices. So for example, when it says arts and humanities, 3 hours, that means you have a choice. But just like with the other check sheet, I know that, for example, I'm going to be taking Econ 251. I know, for example, I'm going to be taking, Math 171 as my math course. And so there are some specific courses listed. With both of these pathways, I will mention that on the next page, if you're curious as to what courses you're going to be taking as a junior and senior once you transfer, those are always going to be listed on your second page. So these are actual courses at UNCW. My suggestion for a transfer student, if you're not sure of where you would like to transfer, Maybe you're deciding between 2 or 3 universities. Maybe you're deciding between 2 or 3 majors. You don't really know what you want to major in. Is make a list. So I always tell students in ECA, take these transfer pathways, write down every single specific course that they list on the transfer pathway, not the ones that have an option where you get to choose, but the ones that they specifically say, hey, we want you to take these specific courses. Write them down, make a list, and compare the two. That's exactly what I've done here with ECU and UNCW with this accounting degree. Notice I've gone through and I've highlighted courses that they have in common. So if I am a student who is undecided whether or not I'm going to ECU or UNCW, and I just need more time to decide, I'm going to start with the highlighted courses because I know either way I go, those are courses that ECU and UNCW would want me to take. Then when it gets down towards the end of my degree, I've really got to lean one way or the other towards ECU or UNCW, especially when it gets to electives, because you can see the ones that aren't highlighted are ones that are different. So I know with UNCW, for example, I'm going to have to take 3 levels of foreign language, whereas that was not a requirement at ECU. Or with ECU, I know I'm going to have to take, Philosophy 240 or Psych 150 or Social 10 or Business 115. Those were not courses that were specifically stated at UNCW. So that would be my suggestion, like I said, for transfer students. Again, if you have any questions at all about how to read a transfer pathway or how to read a transfer check sheet, never hesitate to email me.